What's going on?
If you want to survive, you must stay with us.
It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. Don't you see that the whole aim of newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible, because there will be no words in which to express it. Every concept that can ever be needed will be expressed by exactly one word, with its meaning rigidly defined, and all its subsidiary meanings rubbed out and forgotten. Reality control. But in the end, there won't be any need even for that. How could you have a slogan like "freedom is slavery" when the concept of freedom has been abolished? The whole climate of thought will be different. In fact, there will be no thought as we understand it now. Orthodoxy means not thinking, not needing to think. Orthodoxy is unconsciousness.
And if you think this is crazy, this is happening today in China. They have a system called Sesame. It's called a social credit score. And they use your social media postings to give everyone a score as to how well they toe the line of political correctness to the doctrine of the Communist Party. People who have a negative credit score on that system are denied access to public transportation. They're denied access to airlines, they're denied access to trains, they're denied access to jobs in the government, they're denied access to apartments to rent. They're doing that today. Now, today, those people have cash to go back on. What happens when there's no cash?
China is creating a social credit system. It's a plan to regulate business and citizen behavior with various incentive schemes. China's State Council unveiled the plan in 2014, saying it would allow the trustworthy to roam everywhere under heaven, while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. China's leaders say the system has several main targets: honesty in government affairs, integrity in commerce and wider society, and boosting judicial credibility. About 36 cities around China are testing their own versions of social credit schemes. Currently, the backbone of the system is a set of blacklists. Serious offenders of existing laws are identified by regulatory and oversight bodies. Social credit scores, used in some pilot cities, award or remove points based on behavior. Social credit data can come from court judgments, government agency records, citizen observers who monitor neighbors, or from corporate records. In at least one pilot city, social credit scores can be damaged by defaulting on loan or tax payments. Selling faulty products or breaking traffic laws can also cost points. In those communities, good social credit makes it easier to get bank loans at lower rates. Other perks include free health checks or discounts on heating and free water. Bad social credit may limit access to tickets for high-speed trains or air travel. A Supreme Court blacklist is already in use, limiting travel for people who fail to comply with rulings. By late 2018, the list had stopped sales of 5.4 million high-speed train tickets and about 17 million airline tickets. China's social credit system is due to go nationwide by the year 2020.
After all, 1984 is not about Winston's rebellion in China. The character of Winston serves to represent the fact of the party's total control over a human being. The objects and people around Winston symbolizes different conflicts. Big Brother is a party in its public manifestation, or reassurance to most people. But to Winston, he is more of a threat, as there is no way to escape from his overwhelming gaze. The omnipresent telescreens are the most direct symbol of the party's constant monitoring of its subject. Through propaganda and bombardment of political information, the party deprives people of their ability to think. It symbolizes how totalitarian government abuses technology for its own end, instead of exploiting its knowledge to improve civilization.
The glass paperweight, an artifact that Winston bought in the Pearl District, symbolizes the past that can't be altered by any force. In buying the paperweight, Winston attempts to reconnect with the past. However, this magical thing that seems to possess the power of preserving the past is eventually destroyed by the thought police. All in all, Orwell portrays the perfect totalitarian society, the most extreme realization imaginable of a modern-day government with absolute power, to warn readers in the West of the dangers of totalitarianism.
We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness.
They're called books.
Hello, my name...
I know who you are.
Who are you?
The giver. When the elders need guidance, I provide wisdom using memories of the past. Our world was different. There was more.
More?
Much more.
Right.
You'll see them all in time, all colors, all differences. Our people chose to do away with emotions. Those morning injections take them away.
And people have the freedom to choose.
Facebook now rating its own users' trustworthiness, which sounds a little dystopian.
It may sound dystopian, but in the same way that in the previous segment I was saying I agree with Microsoft using algorithms to identify new domains being created that need to be shut down right away, this is the same kind of proactive work, unfortunately, we have to see happening more and more on the internet. I mean, the way Facebook disclosed it, given almost everything Facebook is doing these days, you have to question, is it for PR? Is it for effect? I mean, who knows? But do I generally agree that they should be doing it? I absolutely do. And you know, I can be plenty critical of these people. So I think we have to try new means to use every possible way to keep these systems as safe as they can be. And rating people's credibility makes sense to me. We need policy here. We need the companies to participate in policy. And we need voices, citizen voices in civic society to get involved too. I mean, there was an advocate writing an op-ed this week saying we need a citizens council of some sort to help these platforms regulate what is and is not allowed. That's creative thinking. We need
scandal after scandal of big tech corporations spying on us and selling our data. Remember how nobody really gave a damn? Remember how we continued to clamour for the latest iPhone, the latest smart home assistant, desperately rushing to fill the void of meaninglessness via the voracious consumption of products, completely blasé about the fact that we were literally complicit in creating the kind of surveillance dystopia that would make George Orwell scoff in disbelief. Yeah. Well, it might be time to start giving a damn. All that information you've been gleefully handing over to the guy who once literally described you as a dumb fuck for doing so will now be used against you. The same social credit score system that has already restricted millions of Chinese citizens from buying plane tickets, train tickets, purchasing property, sending their children to private schools is coming soon to the good old US of A. In many ways, it's already here, thanks to our progressive overlords in Silicon Valley. Patron Scan runs your ID through a database when you enter a bar. If the system decides you've been a naughty boy or girl, you're not getting in the bar. Insurance companies in New York are now basing premiums on social media posts. That Instagram selfie of you eating a bucket of cheese fries might end up costing you big time. Major fundraising sites are kicking off creators for their wrongthink. Uber has banned conservatives for their offensive tweets. Airbnb has refused service to people for their online activity. Conservatives are being banned from entering entire countries because of their views. PayPal, which is taking over numerous credit card processing companies, bans people for their political opinion. Very pleasant people. Major banks are terminating customer accounts because of their political opinions. Imagine going to buy groceries and your card gets declined because some chicken neck in Silicon Valley didn't like what you posted on Twitter about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No food for you. In China, citizens with low social credit scores are restricted from using dating websites. Now Facebook, as if it wasn't already a frighteningly gargantuan monopoly, just launched its own dating service, turning over private, intimate relationship information to a faceless, amoral corporation that spies on you, sells your data, and can arbitrarily ban you for expressing the wrong opinion. Marvelous idea! You just met the love of your life, but lost all contact because you were banned for posting a spicy meme. Merely appearing in a photo with someone Mark Zuckerberg doesn't like is enough to get you banned by Facebook. That's Chinese communist-style social credit score 101. Even if you just affiliate with a designated thought criminal, you get punished too. And if you think all this sounds like it was ripped straight from the plot of some nightmarish Black Mirror episode, that's because it was.
That's reserved for members of our Prime Flight program. You gotta be a 4.2 or over to qualify.
Oh, I'm a 4.2.
I'm afraid you're actually a 4.183.
Well, that's not my fault. Some woman dinged me down in the couch. Can't you just...
I'm sorry, it won't let me book it without the correct ranking.
2 stars? 2 stars?
Wasn't a meaningful encounter.
Everyone is a little bit heightened and false because everyone's terrified of being marked down because the consequences of that are unpleasant. So it's basically the world we live in.
And now the Trump administration is considering a social credit score type program to restrict people from buying guns. They're talking about using Fitbits, Amazon Alexa and Google Home to monitor signs of, quote, neuropsychiatric violence. In other words, if Alexa, which totally isn't listening to and recording all your conversations, picks up some edgy chatter, no Second Amendment for you. So while his supporters are being banned by big tech, left, right and centre, the Trump administration is considering partnering with big tech to spy on Americans via their smart devices to deprive them of their basic rights. Thanks, Javanka! And it's not like any of this is a revelation. 5 years ago, under a project codenamed Weeping Angel, the CIA was already hacking into your smart TVs and recording your words. 7 years ago, it was revealed that Samsung smart TVs were recording people's conversations. Last year, a New Hampshire judge ordered Amazon to turn over 2 days of recordings from an in-home Alexa device. But they're totally not listening to all your conversations. Amazon already has the patent to use Alexa to detect, quote, an excited emotional state or a sad emotional state in your voice, then prescribe you medications based on that. Because Jeff Bezos really wants to take care of you.
Alexa, what is the CIA?
The United States Central Intelligence Agency, CIA.
Alexa, are you connected to the CIA? Alexa, are you connected to the CIA?
I warned that all this was coming 13 years ago. And they called me a conspiracy theorist. Dissidents will be stripped of basic life amenities, deprived of the right to commerce, imprisoned in a vast digital gulag, dehumanized, rendered destitute. Brave protesters in Hong Kong are literally ripping down surveillance cameras to express their opposition to all this. What are we doing? Wetting our pants in anticipation of the new iPhone because it has a slightly better camera and more battery life. At least in China, there's still some semblance of a legal system that citizens can turn to as a redress for their grievances. In America, all this will be controlled by monolithic, unaccountable corporations who have blanket immunity. So when conservatives are left with no access to the digital public square, no right to travel, no right to own firearms, no right to bank accounts, no right to buy and sell, all because we suggested that there might not be more than 2 genders. At least we can comfort ourselves with the collective mantra. They're private companies. They can do what they like.
Follows John to raise her score. No loans, benefits.
Now, Sean also said that we have to make sure that we don't get used to all these constant little intrusions because they eventually add up. He said the worst case scenario is that these scores could be used against you in the real world.
My initial thoughts when I read the headline is, oh my goodness, we're heading towards the Chinese Big Brother social scoring system that is going to make Facebook the equivalent of, the artificial intelligence list that determines whether
nobody likes
we can buy and
antisocial,
sell
violent,
goods,
rude,
whether we can
unhealthy,
own property,
reckless
whether we can
people.
take flights,
We got it. So what's wrong with this technology? As I have said before, what is now being built completely changes our system. We have always had protections of the First and Second Amendment. We've had protections of privacy, supposedly, under the Constitution. We don't anymore. In China, they're doing it by force because the government. China is going this way just as Orwell predicted in 1984. But just as Brave New World predicted, Huxley said it would come with a big happy face on it. It would come through service and it would be great and you'd want this service. Both of those. I remember a time within the last 10 years, people were saying, oh, looks like Huxley was right, Orwell was wrong. No, they were both right. One, 1984, fits the East. Huxley
could we be living in a society analogous to the one depicted by Aldous Huxley in his dystopian novel Brave New World? Could it be that technology, drugs, pornography, and other pleasurable diversions have created a citizenry too distracted to notice the chains which bind them? When Brave New World was first published in 1931, Huxley did not consider the dystopian world he depicted to be an imminent threat. 30 years later, however, following the Second World War, the spread of totalitarianism, and the great strides made in science and technology, Huxley changed his opinion, and in a speech given in 1961, he put forth the following warning. There will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude, and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it, because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods, and this seems to be the final revolution. In the future, according to Huxley, ruling classes would learn that control of a populace could be achieved not only with the explicit use of force, but also with the more covert method of drowning the masses in an endless supply of pleasurable diversions. In 1984, Huxley explains, the lust for power is satisfied by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, by inflicting a hardly less humiliating pleasure. How, one may ask, can pleasure be used to deprive people of their freedom? To answer this question, we must discuss operant conditioning, which is a method of modifying an organism's behavior. In the 20th century, the Harvard psychologist B.F. Skinner performed a famous set of experiments in which he tested different methods of introducing new behaviors in rats. These experiments brought to light how the powers that be can condition humans to love their servitude. In one set of experiments, Skinner attempted to cultivate new behaviors via positive reinforcement. He provided the rat with food any time it performed the desirable behavior. In another set of experiments, he attempted to weaken or eliminate certain behaviors via punishment. He triggered a painful stimulus when the rat performed the behavior Skinner wished to eliminate. Skinner discovered that punishment temporarily put an end to undesirable behaviors, but it did not remove the animal's motivation to engage in such behaviors in the future. Punished behavior, writes Skinner, is likely to reappear after the punitive consequences are withdrawn. Behaviors that were conditioned via positive reinforcement, on the other hand, were more enduring and led to long-term changes in the animal's behavioral patterns. Huxley was familiar with Skinner's experiments and understood their socio-political ramifications. In Brave New World and his subsequent works, Huxley predicted the emergence of a controlling oligarchy who would conduct similar experiments on human beings to condition docility and minimize the potential for civil unrest. Skinner, like Huxley, also understood the social implications of his experiments, but he believed, contrary to Huxley, that operant conditioning could be used by social engineers for the greater good, leading to the development of a scientifically managed utopia. The following passage from Skinner's book Walden 2, however, reveals that such mass conditioning would in reality make possible a pernicious form of tyranny, one in which the masses would be enslaved, yet feel themselves to be free. Now that we know how positive reinforcement works and why negative doesn't, writes Skinner, we can be more deliberate and hence more successful in our cultural design. We can achieve a sort of control under which the controlled nevertheless feel free. They are doing what they want to do, not what they are forced to do. That's the source of the tremendous power of positive reinforcement. There's no restraint and no revolt. By a careful design, we control not the final behavior, but the inclination to behave, the motives, the desires, the wishes. The curious thing is that in that case, the question of freedom never arises. In Brave New World, the main reward used to condition subservience via positive reinforcement was a superdrug called soma. The world controllers, writes Huxley, encouraged the systematic drugging of their own citizens for the benefit of the state. Soma was ingested daily by the citizens of Brave New World as it offered what Huxley called a holiday from reality. Depending on the dosage, it stimulated feelings of euphoria, pleasant hallucinations, or acted as a powerful sleep aid. It also served to heighten suggestibility, thus increasing the effectiveness of the propaganda which the citizens were continuously subjected to. In Brave New World, the soma habit was not a private vice, it was a political institution, writes Huxley. The daily soma ration was an insurance against personal maladjustment, social unrest, and the spread of subversive ideas. Religion, Karl Marx declared, is the opium of the people. In Brave New World, this situation was reversed. Opium, or rather soma, was the people's religion. But the world controllers of Brave New World did not rely on soma alone. Sexual promiscuity was promoted by the state as another tactic to ensure everyone enjoyed their servitude. The slogan, "Everyone belongs to everyone else," was drilled into the minds of the citizens from a young age, and with the institutions of monogamy and the family abolished, everyone was able to indulge their sexual impulses without hindrance. The constant access to sexual gratification served to help ensure the citizens were too distracted to pay attention to the reality of their situation. State-sanctioned entertainment also played an important role in creating the painless concentration camp of Brave New World. What Huxley called non-stop distractions of the most fascinating nature were used by the state as instruments of policy to drown the minds of its citizens in a sea of irrelevance. The parallels which exist between Brave New World and societies of the modern day are undeniable. In Brave New World Revisited, published in 1958, Huxley asked himself how future social engineers could convince their subjects to take drugs that will make them think, feel, and behave in the ways they find desirable. He concluded, "In all probability, it will be enough to merely make the pills available." Today, an estimated 1 in 6 Americans are on some form of psychotropic drug. An opioid crisis has spread across the West. The ability to gratify sexual impulses online has led many into the clutches of pornography addiction, and smartphones and other technologies provide mindless and pleasurable distractions which consume the attention of most people most of the day. To what extent these diversions are intentionally pushed upon us, and to what extent they are spontaneous responses to consumer demand, is unclear. But whatever the answer, the reality is that a distracted and dumbed-down population simply lacks the mental resources to resist their enslavement. Until the modern cry of "give me television and hamburgers, but don't bother me with the responsibilities of liberty" is replaced by the cry "give me liberty" or "give me death," freedom will not prevail. Rather, so long as people trade their liberty for pleasures and comfort, the type of social conditioning Huxley warned of will only become more refined and effective as technologies advance and more insight is gained regarding how to predict and control human behavior. Whether the majority of us will be able to resist this type of manipulation, or whether we will even want to, remains to be seen. If the current trends continue, humanity may soon be divided into two groups. There will be those who welcome their pleasurable servitude, and those who choose to resist it for the sake of retaining not just their liberty, but their humanity. For as the former slave Frederick Douglass noted in the mid-19th century, long before Huxley wrote Brave New World, when a slave becomes a happy slave, he has effectively relinquished all that which makes him human. I have found that, to make a contented slave, writes Douglass, it is necessary to make a thoughtless one. He must be able to detect no inconsistencies in slavery. He must be made to feel that slavery is right, and he can be brought to that only when he ceases to be a man.
Look at the people. Tell me which ones are free. Free from debt, anxiety, stress, fear, failure, indignity, betrayal. How many wish they were born knowing what they know now? Ask yourself, how many would do things the same way all over again?
Follow me into this endless labyrinth of books.
Where am I? Why am I here?
Is this for real? Discover all their stories. new destiny. Let these stories inspire you, challenge you, move you, change your mind, expand your reality.
We have been waiting for. The way things look and the way things are very different. There is no way for me to prepare you for the truth.